Hello, Masa al Khair, good evening, and a very warm welcome to everyone joining us today from the Middle East and Europe and the whole world. My name is Munna Al-Arfaj, I'm from Kuwait, and we're very fortunate to have our guest speaker, Mike George, today. And just before we start, I want to say that this event is coordinated by Harmony House Meditation Center Kuwait and Bahrain Meditation Center. And this is one of our Saturday series. Today we have Arabic Zoom, and we also, I think, have Turkish Zoom. And so for the Arabic translation, you can link to our Zoom link in Arabic, and Sister Salwa from Bahrain is translating the session tonight. So, very interesting topic, which is dealing with difficult relationships. I will just give a brief introduction about our speaker today. Mike George is an author of 16 books focused on self-awareness, emotional intelligence, and leadership. Some of his books are Being Yourself, Don't Get Mad, Get Wise, and Liberating Leadership. He's a senior faculty member of the Cottridley faculty for the last 15 years. He runs leadership, communication, and change module programs for management staff, personnel development, schools, and MBA programs. I have the privilege to know Mike, I think 15 years ago. I met him first time in Kuwait. And then I kind of clicked to one of the things that he mentioned in one of the retreats in Bahrain. And I remember I had a difficult relationship with my daughter who was a teenager. And then she was sitting in one of the corner in the tent. I was sitting on the other side. And Mike said, I want to say this for parents, that you can't control your kids. You can only be good examples and good inspiration. Of course, my daughter was looking at me from that side, smiling, because that point made her feel relaxed. For me, it was really an aha moment to understand that as a mother, it's very difficult. If I want to control my daughter, I will lose her. And I remember that actually made a big shift in our relationship. And now we have a beautiful relationship. So thank you, Mike. It was a one point, but it really was very crucial for me at that time. And maybe one of the things that I really enjoy with Mike's talks is that he brings spirituality with humor. And so normally we see spiritual people very serious, you know, but with Mike, it was always light and fun. And actually, he was one of the instruments that made me go through this journey in a very beautiful and light way. So thank you very much, Mike. And I think one of the specialities in Mike is his understanding of the consciousness, of the mind, and really great depth. Maybe in the beginning, Mike, I didn't understand you, but now, now I can relate more.
Now you're even more confused.
Confused, but at least you know.
Yeah. Thanks,
More. So thank you very much. And I just want to say that Mike will share for those who are joining us maybe for the first time, and then we'll have time to ask him your difficult questions. Thank you, Mike. The floor is yours.
Great. Thanks very much, Mona. Thanks for the introduction. And I've been asked to speak very slowly tonight because there's a few translators online. So if I get a bit carried away, a bit too enthusiastic, somebody give me a signal because I tend to forget. So it's an honor to be with you all, and thank you very much for the invitation. and thanks for tuning in. I think questions, as always, on the chat box or whatever box you're looking in on, and we'll have a session at the end where I'll take some of your questions. And I think the topic tonight really kind of suits me because for those of you who don't know me, I woke up about 35 years ago now and realized I was not enjoying the journey of life. And another word for life is relationships. And my relationships were not going so well. It's not that I perceived them as difficult. It's just that I was kind of suffering a lot, I guess, with quite a bit of stress, and that was spilling out into my relationships and affecting how I got on with people, or how I didn't get on very well with people. So it crept up on me and became so intense I had to give up what I was doing, and I went to look outside and inside to see what I had to change. And then I began to realize I have to go back to school. I have to learn the one thing that no one ever teaches us, and perhaps it's the reason you're here tonight. And it's this thing called self-understanding. And I always kind of like to position around this idea of self-understanding everything that I'm sharing, because the intention to share is just to, first of all, share my own journey, what I've realized about myself and how I understand myself, and in the hope that the map that I create will help you to create your own map and understand yourself a little bit better. Because for sure, the vast majority of people in the world today do not understand themselves. And if you don't understand yourself, then it's really hard to manage your energy, your thoughts, feelings, attitudes, behaviors. And if I can't manage those things, if I'm not the master of those creations, if you like, then it's really difficult to deal with people and the roles I play and the decisions I have to make, etc. So the focus tonight, as you know, is dealing with the more difficult relationships. Most relationships are easy, I think, but we all have somewhere, maybe one or two or three people who are a little bit difficult. And sometimes they're called a DP, a difficult person. So do you have a difficult person in your life? If so, then now is the time to bring them into your consciousness, because I'm going to share with you a number of ideas and insights, and then you can decide how you might apply them in your relationship with that person. A DP, by the way, a difficult person, is kind of fairly easily defined as someone who doesn't do what you want them to do, or who does do what you don't want them to do, and then you don't know what to do about them. And so a simple definition of a difficult person. When life is relationship, it makes life a little bit messy, because you don't really understand anyone else, and you can't really understand fully anyone else except for yourself. And what we tend to do is we tend to create our version of the other person within our own consciousness. So we really kind of have two relationships with the same person. So there's a relationship, an external one, with the person who's over there, but really I'm having a relationship with the person that I've created in my consciousness, on my mind. And this is why if you have three people and you have two people relating to the third person, one person gets on with them and the other person doesn't get on with them, and this person doesn't understand, why don't you like them, and why do you get on with them so well? And it's because they're not really relating to the person, but to their version, their creation of that character. And then when you understand that we create according to how we are, in other words, we perceive, and so we create. So we create according to how we are, and so we see the other person according to how we are. And so really we're kind of, in a sense, in a roundabout sort of way, always having a relationship with our own creation. Yeah, and that's really at the very heart. And I kind of return to that insight, idea, maybe aha moment for you. I don't know. I hope there are some aha moments tonight. In other words, those moments when you go, ah ha ha ha, I didn't get that. Now I see. Now I understand. Yeah, so maybe that's the first aha moment for you. But before we start, before I kind of take you on the journey into, I guess, understanding relationships a little bit better, just to say there's 3 parts to our session tonight. Part 1 is kind of understanding the dynamics of relationship. That's part 1 in a sense. We'll kind of look at what's really going on. And then part 2 is I put together a little what's called a relationship repair kit. And so there's some tools and insights in the kit which you can pull out according to the relationship you're currently having with your difficult person. Some tools will be useful, some will not. And so I'll introduce you to what's called the relationship repair kit. And then the third part of the evening is really about it's really about questions and what you'd like to know a little bit more about or a little bit more deeply. So what I'm going to do is a little bit unusual. I'm going to share with you some overheads that I've prepared, which kind of takes us through the area, the territory that we're going to cover together, and it helps you to assimilate what I share with you. You're going to kind of see it in 2 mediums, if you like, visually and audibly. And they always say that communication is much more effective when it occurs in 2 mediums. This is why most organizations use 2 mediums to promote their products. So part number 1 is sort of understanding the dynamics of any relationship, really. But in order to understand, there's kind of 4 principles that I'm going to suggest to you or recommend to you or point you towards, which are kind of the foundation. They're really necessary in order for you to deepen your understanding. As I said before, I'm only sharing mine. You have to cultivate and create your own. So the first principle is that consciousness is what you are. Yeah, I know many of you are familiar with this idea, but some of you won't be. In other words, you are not what you see in the bathroom mirror in the morning, which is kind of good news, really, because if you notice, that's where your stress begins. So what you see is just an appearance. What you are is the animator of that appearance in that sense. So you are consciousness. That's what you are. You're not your name. You're not what you have. You're not where you were born. You're just this conscious being. That's the first principle. Always going to return to that. That's always going to be sitting underneath the ideas I share with you. Principle number 2 is this, the hardest one really, is the one that I have to get everybody over in whatever workshop or seminar or retreat that I run. And it's this idea of self-responsibility. Yeah, it's what you need to realize. I'm responsible. You are entirely responsible for your own thoughts, your own feelings, your own behavior in whatever relationship, whatever situation, whatever event that you face. It's not coming from outside in, it's coming from inside out. So this is the idea of self-responsibility. Sounds easy in theory, but not so easy in practice, simply because we've all assimilated and we're carrying the belief that other people make us feel what we feel. Yeah, situations and events and movies make us feel what we feel. But it's not, it's always me. And that's kind of essential if you're going to repair or heal any relationship that's not working in your life. Principle number 3 is a kind of necessity, really. It's necessary to practice what's called curiosity. All I can do is recommend it. And I'm kind of recommending that you be very, very curious about what you're creating and expressing in whatever relationship is challenging for you. Yeah, it's kind of coming out of the second principle of self-responsibility, because it's not the other person that's making you feel or emote what you're emoting. It is you. It's always you. And so therefore, only you can change you, and only you need to change you. If you change, the relationship will change. Relationships are a bit like leadership. It always takes two to tango. And in a relationship of two, there's always a leader. So if you changed your steps, your attitude, your behavior, they will follow. However, what gets in the way is something called emotion. Yeah, and when you're upset with someone, it means you are generating the emotion of anger, irritation, frustration, whatever. And so emotion is like a flaring of your consciousness. And a great metaphor in this picture here is the surface of the sun. You know, whenever you become emotional, upset with someone or in a bad mood with someone, whether it's expressed or you keep it inside, it means you have an emotion, this energy of your consciousness is flaring. But if you notice, all flares eventually fall back in, and the energy of the solar flare merges back into the surface of the sun. A little bit goes off into the universe, but mostly it comes back in. And if you notice, also, emotion, I'm just using the sun as a metaphor, your emotions will return to your consciousness and you will merge. And so it's not right or wrong or good or bad to be upset or not upset or whatever, or in a mood or irritated or frustrated. It's not that you should or you shouldn't. It just happens. And when you are practicing curiosity, then you're really interested. Why am I getting upset? It's not them that's making me upset. Responsibility. It's me that's making me upset. Now, what am I doing in my consciousness that is generating this flaring of my emotions in my relationship with this person? So it's like these four principles are a little bit essential to carry with you beyond this this presentation or beyond whatever ideas that I kind of share with you. There's a little bit more about the principle of self-responsibility. You know, when you're talking to someone, it's so easy to become upset. And so as we kind of learn that the other person is responsible, you know, we've had two great teachers, Hollywood and Bollywood. Every time we absorb a movie and the characters and the relationships in the movie, they're all built around this idea that the other person is responsible for what I feel. Yeah. I like this principle. This is worth sticking on your desk and repeating every day. It's not what you say or do that makes me feel this way. It's what I do with what you say or do that makes me feel this way. See the difference? So it's not what you say or do that makes me feel this emotion. We feel our emotions. When we're emoting, we feel them. We're the first to feel them, although we may not want to, and we want to project them very quickly. But the other person is not responsible for them. I am. Yeah. So it's what I do with what you say or do in my consciousness that makes me feel this way. Yeah. So I am the primary creator in that sense. So there's a little formula for success in life, and this little formula goes something like this. E plus R equals O. Maybe you're familiar with it. Maybe you've seen it already. In other words, event plus response equals the outcome. It kind of full circles back to what Mona was saying at the beginning, when there's this realization that you cannot control any person in your life, any other person. You can't control any event more than 3.5 feet away from you, except perhaps the light by pushing the switch. Yeah. So event plus response equals outcome. So if someone gets an outcome that they don't like, that they don't want to accept, a result which is not working in their perception, what most people do is they try to change the event. And the event is usually always in the past. It's already happened. And it usually always involves other people. And the two things in life you can never, ever change are the past and other people. And yet, we spend most of our life trying to change what we cannot change. And this is where most of our stress comes from. Stress in the form of frustration or irritation, and ultimately anger. So whenever you get angry at someone, it means you're trying to do the impossible. You're trying to change what they've just said or just done, or the way they've just been for you. That's why they call it a moment of insanity. You're trying to do the impossible, which is to change what you cannot change. So a little example, maybe. David walks in the room and he expresses his opinion about some issue or subject, and I don't agree. I disagree. I say, you're wrong. You're wrong. I'm right. You're wrong. And so now I can feel the emotion beginning to flare. I'm beginning to argue. And so we enter into an argument about an opinion, his opinion and my opinion. And we're both trying to prove ourselves to be right. Even if it's not audible, it might just be happening in my mind. So essentially, I suffer. I make myself suffer emotionally. And that means also that the relationship, myself and Dave, needs some kind of repair. Or Mary, she's late for the meeting. And so in my mind, and I might even say it to Mary, you're late. You've let me down. So I begin to suffer emotionally, believing that it's Mary that's made me suffer because she's late. But that's an illusion. The truth is, I make me suffer. But because I suffer, I generate resentment towards Mary. Mary picks up my resentment, and so she wants to go her own way, and maybe we don't talk to each other, or maybe we have an argument. So the relationship now also needs some repair. So this is the essence of the dynamic of the relationship, and why I make myself suffer, and why many of our relationships require repairing at some stage. So let's explore the process of repairing. Imagine this circle is your consciousness, the whole blue circle and the white bit in the middle. Imagine that is your consciousness. David walks in the room and he does something, and it triggers my anger, resentment, envy, jealousy, irritation, frustration. They're all different faces or vibrations of anger in my consciousness. So what I do, because I haven't yet done this particular seminar, I still believe that it was Dave that made me angry. So I create a memory of Dave and the event, the action, the behavior that he performed, that I'm ascribing the cause of my anger. I create that memory of Dave, and I surround that memory with the emotion of anger. So I have in the memory the picture of Dave, the event, and the emotion of anger. It's all recorded in my consciousness. 3 weeks later, I see Dave walking down the road. I kind of look at this person on the other side, and I say, I know that guy. And his face comes into my consciousness through my eyes, and I put my face up and his face into my consciousness. I go, oh, I recognize that's Dave. So I walk over the road, but as I remember that this is Dave, it's also me bringing to the surface the anger or resentment that I felt 3 weeks ago when Dave I believe, made me feel angry. So when I go up to talk to Dave, I can't talk clearly, I can't think clearly, I can't behave openly, and I can't connect well with Dave, because although I may have the memory of Dave and the event, I'm also re-energizing the anger, the irritation, the frustration. And so in that moment, it's as if I am wounded. In that moment, I bring the records of the event, the image of Dave, the anger and resentment. The moment I bring it back to life, it's as if I recreate the wound in my consciousness. It's like as if I'm a little bit crippled, not physically, but emotionally, I'm crippling myself. So there's a little bit of healing required. I need to heal that. And there's 2 steps towards healing. You know, if you injure yourself physically, the way of healing a wound is to give it some ointment and a little bit of sunlight. So you dry out the wound and you put some ointment on it, and that heals the wound physically. Now, of course, sunlight and ointment does not work for a wound in consciousness, you know, in the recordings in my consciousness. What I need to do is, number 1, is to realize my responsibility. In other words, there has to be an aha moment which says, it wasn't Dave that made me suffer emotionally, it was me. Yeah, it was my perception of Dave. Yeah, and I also have to give something, not to Dave, but to the wound. And so I have to come back to the heart of my consciousness. And if you return to the heart of your consciousness, that's where you always find your peace. That's where you will always find your capacity to generate the vibration of love. That's where you always find your deepest contentment, at the very heart of your consciousness. Again, not new ideas. These are very ancient, very old ideas. But what I need to do within my consciousness is to give the vibration of love to the wound. In other words, to the image or the memory of Dave. So there has to be 2 steps, two basic steps. Number 1 is the realization it wasn't him, it was me that made myself emotionally suffer, in other words, angry. And I have to give to the memory, the image, the idea of Dave in my consciousness. I have to give consciously. Some people call it forgiveness. I might say it's the energy of me is for giving. It is to give the vibration of love to the wound in which the memory of Dave is recorded. And so I heal myself. Now, as you're doing that, then this is a little bit tricky, but because we're all connected at a more subtle level of consciousness, then the energy that you are giving from the heart of your being to Dave, just in your consciousness, is also vibrating outwards and is also reaching Dave at the same time. So you're not just healing yourself, but you are touching, sending the vibration of your consciousness, which is what's called love. It's just another word for the highest level of consciousness. That energy is going out, a little bit of it, just like the solar flare, is going out and it's touching Dave. He doesn't know it. You don't have to call him up and tell him you're doing it. You're just doing it. So the next time you actually encounter Dave, then you will notice you are easier on the inside in yourself. And you will also notice that the relationship is much easier. It's much easier to connect. You know? In other words, healing has taken place, both the healing within your consciousness and the healing of the reality of the connection with that other being in their human form. So this is the process by which you heal yourself and the relationship. It's kind of like the deepest aspect of the process. So the dynamic, these are the dynamics. This is kind of part one. So let's move on to part two. And part two is things that you can do which are an extension of this healing process, things that might help you to heal a difficult relationship in your life at the moment. It's what I call the relationship repair kit. And there's just 10 ideas, 10 ways to heal different kinds of difficulty in different kinds of relationship. Number one, we've kind of covered a little bit, and it's to realize and accept your own responsibility. Always in every relationship is to remind yourself of that. If you can't remind yourself of your responsibility for your creation of them in the actual interaction, do it afterwards. Do it afterwards. Number two is to create your version of them as well as you can. Yeah. When you're not with them, can you create a fantastic version of them? Or is your resentment or is your I don't like them very much in the way of your ability to create them as well as you can? And if so, then you need to do some healing work on yourself. Now, traditionally, for thousands of years, the deepest healing is to get out of your mind, in other words, get out of your picture and come back to your heart, otherwise known as meditation. That's all meditation really is, in essence, is to get out of your mind, to leave them alone, to leave your version of them alone for a moment and come back to your heart. Yeah, and start to generate a higher level of energy, vibration from your heart. Yeah, and then you can give that vibration to the image, the memory, the event that you've recorded. Then you can give that energy to that person in your consciousness. Yeah, you see the illustration on the right-hand side here. So this thought bubble is your creation. And how are you creating the other person? Because they're also creating you. Yeah. So relationship, as we know, is a two-way dance. So as you create them, they're also creating you. Now you can influence how they create you. You can't control it, but you can influence it. And we saw in the last overhead is that if you generate this energy, which we sometimes call love, it's just a word for a vibration. If you generate that and surround the image of them in your consciousness with that vibration, they will feel it. They won't know that you are sending it to them, but they'll feel it, and they will create a better image of you. Yeah, and so they'll start sending you that energy. All this is happening totally invisibly, totally outside of your experience, in a sense. It's all happening in your insperience. Can't see it, won't be able to attribute it, but just know that this is the subtle dynamic of all relationships, no matter how long they last or don't last, as the case may be. In other words, if you have a relationship with someone and you decide to end the relationship, you can't. It's not possible. Yeah, because you will always carry a memory of that person in your consciousness. You may suppress it, you may repress it, you may regenerate your hatefulness towards them. I don't like them. But you will still always carry the memory of that individual somewhere in your consciousness. And that's why it makes sense to always come back to the heart of your being and sit, with the highest energy of your being, which we call love, and allow that energy to permeate your consciousness and let it touch all the relationships you've ever had. whether you're aware of them or not. So number 3 is when you walk into a relationship, instead of wondering what they can give you, ask yourself, what can I give them? And the reason I think this is a great tool is that we are totally programmed the moment we arrive to continuously desire, want, wonder, what can they give me? What can I get from them? I need to acquire, possess, keep. I've got to hold on to whatever I get. And so all our habits, our personality is built around this idea of getting something from me. It's like the material paradigm arises out of the intention to get something from me. And then when you get it, hold on to it. Don't let anyone else have it. It's going to define your success. It's going to define your happiness. It's going to define your life. This is what we're taught. So this is really why many relationships start becoming difficult. You're not doing what I want. You're not giving me the attention I want. You're not living up to my expectations anymore. You've changed. And so instead of walking into the relationship wondering what they can give me, ask yourself first, what can I give them? And then you reverse the energy, you reverse the intention, and the habit of always wanting something begins to atrophy. Tool number 4, method number 4, is relationship has its foundations built on mutual respect. It's necessary to build that respect. The brother and the sister, respect and trust. The problem is we expect to get respect, especially if you're a manager in an organization or you're a parent of many children. You expect to be respected because you believe you are the one with the authority in the relationship. And so can you give respect without receiving respect? Can you lose someone's respect? Or can they lose your respect? Can someone else lose your respect? Most people say yes, they just have to tell a little lie, or they come late for the meeting twice, etc. But if you think about it, in every relationship, there's got to be a leader. There's got to be the person who leads the dance, the interaction between these two sides. And one of the marks of a great leader is they're always prepared to give respect to the other person, regardless of what they've done, what they've said, what they say they're going to do. One of my favorite stories is kids in the north of England, and they were brought up in one-parent families and damp schools, terrible education, their conscience, they kind of went totally to sleep, and they were violent, and they didn't care about other people, they didn't care about the effect they had on the community, etc., etc. And so the only way that they helped these teenagers, sometimes they were called feral teenagers, was to give each teenager a mentor. And the mentor spent time with each one of those individuals, lots of time, and all they did was respect and regard, just gave respect and regard constantly, regardless of what these teenagers said, did, or had done, what their history was, regardless. They just gave them respect, and very slowly, very gradually, their conscience began to return, began to be re-energized, and they began to listen to their own conscience, and they began to then act according to what their conscience would say, and not just impulsively, emotionally. So it's a really good example for me of laying the foundation. Takes time in many relationships, but it means I have to be prepared, not to be needy of the respect of others. In other words, I have to be prepared to be the leader in the relationship, to give it anyway, as all good leaders do. That means I have to free myself from expectations. Not easy, especially if you're a parent, especially if you're a manager. Can you expect I expect nothing from you? It's okay to have expectations, but the problem is when you base your happiness, when your happiness becomes dependent on having your expectations met. Can you separate the two? So that if someone says they're going to do something, but they don't, but you expected them to, can you be okay if they didn't? Can you still support them, still respect them, still give them time, still care about them when they don't meet your expectations? And so if you can, you turn an expectation into a vision, and that vision is very empowering. It's a little bit like the parent says to the child, I expect you to be brilliant at school. I expect you to pass your exams. But if you don't, it's okay. I'm still here to support you. Do your best. I can see you doing your best. And so it takes the pressure off the child. And so they're then able to better meet the challenge of the exam. Yeah. As long as they know you will still be supportive, that you won't feel let down, that you won't be unhappy with them when they don't do so well or they don't meet your expectations. If in a relationship, a difficult relationship, you find yourself on a corner, that really means if someone persists in what we might call bothering you, and there seems to be no way that you can get away from them, or that you can discourage them from wanting to take your time, your energy, or whatever, then perhaps one way you haven't yet tried to lessen the intensity of that relationship is to serve them. In other words, what can you do for them? How can you help them? How can you be a guide for them? What can you do that will empower them? So in other words, serve your way. Instead of resisting, fighting, hiding from the relationship, can you walk towards it and create ways to serve that individual? Yeah, and whatever is going to meet their needs at that moment. Number 7 is don't take anything personally. Again, easy theory, but not so easy in practice. Why do you take things personally? Why is it that when someone insults or criticizes you, you take it so personally? And that's because your idea of yourself does not meet what's contained in the criticism, in the insult. In other words, your idea of yourself, which is really your idea of how you think others should see you, is forming the basis of your ego, your false sense of self. So you meet someone occasionally and you can say anything to them, you can insult them, call them names, and it doesn't bother them. It's like water off a duck's back. It happens and they walk away, and then they say, hey, how are you doing? And they carry on the relationship. Sometimes we call these people with thick skins. So in a sense, it's necessary to thicken our skin. In other words, not be so sensitive to the criticisms and the insults of others. Is that possible? Well, if you're curious enough and you are sensitive to other people's ideas about you and you're curious, you will go within yourself and see what it is that you are basing your sense of who you are upon. In other words, the mistake you're making in your own consciousness. See your difficult person as your teacher. Don't tell them that they're your teacher, but you begin to use them in your consciousness. Now, they are in my life. What have they come to teach me? What are they showing me? They don't happen to me. They've happened for me. What's the lesson they're here to teach me? And they won't tell you. They won't know. Only you know. Only you know why you are reacting to them. Seek to understand them. You know the old principle. Seek to understand before you seek to be understood. It's why we have 2 ears and 1 mouth. So do a lot of listening and understand that person. And the more you understand them, the more you will appreciate them, the more value you will give to them in your consciousness, the more value you will give to your version of them. And very gradually, your version will transform. It will change within you. And eventually, you'll be much more comfortable with them. See the person, not the position. Not easy once again, or easy theory, but not so easy practice. Some of us have a real difficulty with authority figures for some reason. Maybe we had a parent who was very bossy, bit of a control freak, and they used to invoke our fear in order to try and control our behavior. And so it's necessary, as I grow up, because I replace the parent with the manager, etc., it's necessary to see that person and not so much their position. So you relate to the person, they're just a human being, just like anyone else, and not relate to the position of authority so much. So that's the work I have to do inside, to transform my version of them out of position back to person or human being. So let me stop here and see if any of those are useful for you to put in your personal kit, relationship repair kit. And let's see if there's any questions after sharing so much information, so many insights. I don't know if Mona, you're reading any questions off the...
Yeah, we thought, Mike, that we'll be having some meditation before, but it's up to you. We can...
Okay, well, no, let's do the questions first while we're in the mood, and then we'll finish with a few moments of meditation.
Okay. One of the questions is that they did not get the idea of serve way out. You mentioned something like save way out. Means how can I
serve your way out? So if you find yourself cornered by a relationship, in other words, there's one person who's constantly after you, bothering you, making demands on you, or sometimes we call them energy drains. They're always kind of draining your energy. You want to get away from them. And we end up trying to avoid that person. We feel cornered by that person. Yeah, and it's like they know that they're triggering your feelings of being cornered. So it's like sometimes when they sense that, they then feel they have power over you. Kids are pretty good at doing this with parents, especially when they go around the toy shop. And so instead of trying to avoid them or run away, or instead of mentally resisting them, I don't want to get this person out of my life, then walk towards them, reverse the energy, go towards them, and find a way to guide, help, care, serve that person. I don't mean customer service as in business. I mean, be of service to that person. What do they need? What will help them in their life? A little bit like you used that example at the beginning. In a sense, I didn't know it. I didn't think this way at the time, but I might have been serving you in your relationship with your daughter in that moment because I just said something which was useful and helpful to you. So you create your version of me in a kinder light, an easier light, a less wanting to control Mike's attitude light, if you know what I mean. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Mike, I think some of them wanted just to repeat point number 7. Do you have the slide in front of you, or is that okay?
Well, I was trying to go really slowly. Let's come back here again. And yeah, there we go. Whoa, and there we go here, and then we go there, and there, and there, and 7. Oh, don't take anything personally. Yeah. Okay. So this is where really curiosity becomes important. If you take something personally, I tend to use the example of the car a lot. If someone scratches your car gets damaged, or someone crashes into it, we tend to take it personally. In other words, we get very angry at the other driver or the other violent person who just took a coin down the side of your car. So you're taking it personally. So that's because you're identified, you're attached to and identified with the car. And so you're saying in that moment, I am the car. You touch the car and you touch me. And most people believe that that's natural. They believe that's okay. And what I'm suggesting is, be curious. Understand it's not the other car, not the other person, not the person with the coin that's making you suffer. Your anger is your suffering. You're the creator of that. You manufacture that in your consciousness in response to this event. And so, why? Because you're attached to the car. Oh, I'm attached to the car. That's why. So if you don't want to suffer, if you don't want the anger, then you have to change your relationship with the car. In other words, to one of non-attachment or to be detached. So if you have a non-attached relationship with the car, you still use the car, you still have the car, it's still in your life, no problem, but you have a relationship of non-attachment. And if something happens to the car, no problem, no issue, because cars are designed to be scratched, kicked, scraped, bumped, crashed, or eventually go to the scrap heap. That's reality. That's the reality of life, material reality. And so stop arguing with reality, because that's what you're doing when you get upset.
I think, Mike, here, just with the same point, sometimes you understand it, but it's like a deep habit of association, isn't it? I mean,
yeah, it is a habit, and that's why you have to be curious, you know. And most people will just say, well, that's natural, you know, everyone gets upset and angry and scared and so on. And so they energize this belief, oh, it's natural, it's human nature. And that's a great excuse for not doing anything about it.
Right.
And they use that excuse for not doing anything about it until the day arrives when the habit is just so intense and so frequent. I can't take this unhappiness, this anger any longer. I need to do something about it. And they hit their brick wall, and then they have to change.
Very true. Okay, is it okay to cut the other person out of your life because you have done all the things you mentioned and nothing worked? It's a good question.
No, it's not. If someone's saying they've done all those things I've mentioned, I'm almost on the edge of saying I don't believe you. Yeah, and what they're intimating by asking the question is that they're still trying to control the other person. In other words, expectation is a form of attempting to control someone. And so it means they're still trying to control what you can't control, which is another person. And it means you have not yet learned to accept them as they are, yeah, on the outside. And then the version you create on the inside is a version you accept. This is just the way they are. So let me create them as they are and let me accept them as they are. And then you don't need to cut them out of your life. You can't anyway. You can't cut anyone out of your life. It's not possible. Once you have a relationship with someone, once you know someone, once you've interacted, once you've met and had any kind of interaction, then you carry the memory of that relationship, of that person in your consciousness. So then what are you doing with it? Are you resisting it? Are you rejecting them? Are you angry at them? When you bring the memory into your mind and you are aware that you're remembering them, do you throw anger at it? Oh, I don't like that person. Because you're just sabotaging yourself. Are you criticizing? Because you're just attacking your own creation, which means you're attacking yourself. Yeah.
Okay, Mike, for the example of the car, there's another question, says, what if he hits you and not the car?
Yes. What if the other person hits you? You mean physically?
Yes.
Yeah. So you have a choice. You know, you're a creative individual. You can, if they're going to keep hitting you, leave the room, walk away,
Mm.
or run away if you need to. Or you can turn around and ask them, well, you know, why are you doing that? Yeah.
Yes.
But of course, most people, they want to hit back. They want to fight back. And then you have war. And this is
Yeah.
how wars kind of happen. And so you have to understand that there's two energies at play in life. We talked about consciousness, but there's also matter, form. So when someone touches your form, there'll be pain. You know, there'll be a sensation of pain. Someone stands on your toe and you get toothache. But you are not form, you are consciousness. And so you can choose whether you are going to suffer. Not pain is physical, suffering is mental and emotional, depending on how you respond to what happens to your physical form. You know, some people drop, if you drop a knife in my leg, I might see you in 2 years. Oh, I remember that moment 2 years ago, you dropped a knife in my leg. So there's been one moment of pain and then 2 years of suffering. Oh, I'm so angry. I'm so upset. You should never have done that 2 years ago. Whereas some people, you drop a knife in the leg, they go, oh, no problem. It was an accident. Move on, forget it. So one moment of pain, no suffering, almost no suffering. So you decide. You are entirely responsible for your suffering. Yeah. Someone is going to bash into your body at some stage, and there'll be some pain. That's compulsory in a sense. That comes with the package called life. But you decide whether you're going to suffer or not. Yeah. So pain and suffering are two different things.
Mm. Very nice. Okay, this is a long question. I don't know if you're reading it also. Hello, if I deal with a close family member that crosses healthy boundaries of respect, this person has an emotional alteration, sickness, and feels entitled to be aggressive and criticize. I'm grateful and happy for this relationship because it started me in my journey. Yes, this person still triggers feeling and she knows it. How can you mentally resist or what to do?
Stop trying to control them or have expectations of them. If they want to try and press your buttons, in other words, get you to react, then let them. But don't react. Stop reacting. They're not responsible for your reaction. And if they keep pressing your buttons or provoking you and you stop reacting, they'll stop trying to provoke you. Yeah, it's the dynamic of a relationship. The only reason they keep doing what they're doing is because they know they'll get a reaction from you. And so don't react.
Yes.
Yeah, so accept them as they are. Don't control them. Don't want anything from them. Yeah, let them be. What they want to be angry. They want to be upset. That's their job. You know, it's their business. It's their creation. Nothing to do with you. Don't take it personally. And then you'll notice when you stop reacting, they'll stop trying to provoke a reaction.
True. What is the secret of wishing the best for others work? Like why and how it works? When you mentioned wishing the best. Yeah.
Now you're getting really deep. So the secret, the deep, deep secret of being able to give good wishes, good energy, highest level of love, of care towards someone is to change how you are seeing them. It's connected with vision. Yeah. So you don't see them as my family member or my boss or my friend or my. As soon as you start using the word my in relation to anyone in your life, then you give birth to expectation, wanting something from them, expecting something from them. Yeah. And so I have to begin to raise my consciousness and see them, yeah, just as a human being. Let's take out the human, just see them as a being on their journey. Their journey is their business. It's not my business. But to have that vision of them, I also have to have that vision of myself. You know, I'm just a being of consciousness on my journey. Yeah, no one else is responsible for how I feel and what I do and how I think. I am 100%. So it's none of your business. If you want to interfere with my life, you can try. Yeah, but I'm responsible for my journey, and so you're responsible for your journey. Yeah, and so the acceptance of that, for me, that deeper truth. Let's journey together a little bit. Let's share what we're learning, what we're experiencing, without interfering with each other. In other words, without trying to control or have expectation or want anything from the other person. Yeah. So I have to raise my consciousness, and in a sense, this is spirituality. I have to realize I am just consciousness. I'm not Mike George. I'm not European or Scottish or whatever. You know, I'm not what I do. I'm not where I live. I'm not my family. I'm not my identity. My sense of who I am is not based on any of these things. Yeah, it's free. I'm a free being on the inside. There's a big conversation going on about freedom right now, and so people are getting very upset and angry because they sense their freedom is being taken away. Yeah, but then, am I curious enough to really go into the depth of what freedom really means? Mandela was a good example. He took away everything. They locked him up, stripped him of everything. And apparently, if people watch, they're taking his freedom away. They locked him up for 27 years. And he walked out the most forgiving, loving, caring, beautiful human being on the planet. He was de facto leader of the world for 3 years. Everyone wanted to be seen by him because he discovered, through his curiosity, the real meaning of freedom, which goes something like this. You can lock up my body. You can maybe even force me to do things, physical things, but you can never lock up my mind, my consciousness. You cannot imprison that, ever. And so freedom, real freedom, is the realization I'm always free if I so choose in my consciousness, if I realize it for myself.
And I think that's the biggest gift that we give to ourselves, right?
Yeah, really.
For my, yes. So I think this is related. I mean, the example you were giving is maybe can answer this question also. The same with a family member who does not recognize his need for a psychiatric treatment. No, I think it happens sometimes in the family where the son or the daughter, you know, they do go through panic attacks, and but they don't really, they're in denial that they need help. So as a parent, I mean, you are concerned, but again, as you said, you can only share, and
you have to be careful with your concern. You know, if you're giving the highest energy of your consciousness to that person through your attitude, through your behavior, through your relationship, if you're able to give love to that person, then that is healing enough for them. But of course, what we tend to do is we tend to look at them, oh, they need help. Oh my God, they should see someone about that. Oh, that's terrible. Oh, this is awful. And so we're adding, you know, our own worry, our own tension. You know, we're affirming that they are needing help, that they are somehow sick. And so they pick up that vibration and then they give it back. Oh yeah, I am so, oh, I'm terrible. No, I don't. And so eventually it's the only way that they know how to get attention from us is to be deliberately, or even look like it, that they're sick, that they need help, they need psychiatrist help, because that's how they get our attention. It's a little bit like an abusive relationship. You know, in a relationship, some people are abused, but they don't leave the relationship, because if they leave the relationship, there's a fear they'll be on their own. There's a fear they won't get attention. There's a fear that they will lose that person who is being abusive towards them. So they stay in the relationship And subconsciously they believe, well, this is the only way I get attached. It's the only way. I mean, it must be their love. They must love me so much that they hate me so much. And so it becomes a little bit twisted. And so it's necessary to, and this is the real meaning of detachment, to be present for the person, but not be someone who's constantly judging the person. Yeah, or you're sick, you need help. Well, I'm really worried about you. This is a judgment. It's just to be there for them. A little bit like an alcoholic. You know, you can't help an alcoholic. You have to let the alcoholic reach their lowest level of addiction. There's nothing that's going to stop them really from hitting rock bottom. And only then will they be open enough, yeah, to make the changes they need to make. And so it's just, it doesn't matter what the psychological repair that's required. That person has to reach their lowest point. And all you can do is be there for, I'm always here for you. Whenever you want to help, I'm here. Okay, see you later, bye. Did you want to have a coffee tomorrow? Yeah, let's have a coffee tomorrow. Okay, bye. You know, and so you're there, they know you're there, but you're not trying to fix them all the time. Yeah, and so they'll be more open then. You try and fix them and they'll go, oh, well, no, you try, what's the matter with you? You leave me alone. You know, and so you just get resistance back. Resistance begets resistance.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very nice. Okay.
One more, and then I think we should finish. Otherwise, we lose the energy. Last question.
I think someone wrote just free from desire. I'm not sure if they wanted more on that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, desire is one of the challenges that we face in our consciousness. This habit of wanting comes from the habit of believing that when you get what you want, then you'll be okay, then you'll be happy. Yeah, but and it seems to be true that if you get the new car, you get the new job, you get what you want, yeah, there is happiness. But it's not the object that brings you happiness. It's that when you get the object, it's the end of desire for that, the agitation of desire. Desire is like an agitation. You're always thinking about it, you want it, oh, I've got to get it before someone else gets it. That's agitation, and that's making you unhappy. So when you get what you want, you feel happy. It's not the object, it's not the job, it's not the money, it's not the person that's making you happy. It's just the agitation has come to an end, and your natural contentment, your natural happiness is allowed to come to the surface. You're allowed yourself to feel it, to feel yourself, to be in the feeling of contentment.
But then there is a breed for another desire.
Yeah, because it's a habit. Because you're still asleep. Yeah, there's a sleepiness, there's an unawareness.
So what's the pill, Mike, for the awakening?
I wish I'd be a very rich man if we could make a pill and bottle them. In a sense, that's what these pharmaceutical companies are trying to do, I think. But that's another story.
Mike, thank you so much. I mean, there's so many messages about how wonderful the talk is and how it helped them so much, and empowerment. So really big thanks. And hopefully we can see you soon another time, maybe after Ramadan. It's Ramadan here, so
yeah, that's right.
Of fasting and gathering. But thank you so much for your time and precious.
You want to finish with a short meditation?
Please, yes.
Okay. Announcements to make before we go?
Not really, just thanking everyone for their presence. Okay. And tomorrow there's Arabic meditation by Mona. We can send the link for whoever is interested. Okay. And yeah, we have this series, so I think they will receive the announcements for the coming events. Thank you, Mike. Thanks a lot. Hope everyone is safe and good in the UK.
Thanks, Mona. Yeah, we're all okay here. I've checked with everybody, all 70 million, and we're fine.
We hear that the UK is doing very well with the vaccine, so good.
Oh, well, yeah. We hear lots of things, but we don't know what's true. That's good. It's probably the one thing I haven't said tonight, and it's probably a good way to finish too, is please don't believe a word I say. We have enough beliefs and belief systems. See for yourself. Be curious for yourself. Create your own map, basically. So this is the map of meditation that I tend to share a lot, and it's a very simple meditation. And meditation is, as I said earlier, is the journey out of what's on your mind, get out of your mind and come back to the heart of your being. And the heart of your being, there is a silence, there's a stillness. Yeah, there's the unchanging you, basically. Everything that is moving and is noisy are ideas and images and memories and so on. They're not you, they're your creation. So you're the creator and they're your creation. So that's why we speak the international language of labels. We name things, we label them, people, objects, and things, but none of them are me. Yeah, the intrinsic me. They're just labels. So meditation is seeing that for yourself, knowing that for yourself, and experiencing your true natural state. So step number one is look away from the screen. Try and rest your eyes somewhere to the side. If you look at the screen, you'll find a habit of evaluating and judging and looking is really not easy to be free of. But look at something to the side. Rest your eyes somewhere. Because eventually you're going to go beyond what you're physically seeing. And then just relax your body in the chair. Take the shape of the chair you're sitting in and just relax your form. And bring your awareness to your breath. It's always a good place to start. So you're just aware of your breathing, the full cycle of your breath. Don't force, just watch. No need for any music. Don't play any music. Music is just another stimulation, another distraction. So just be aware of yourself. See if you can be aware of yourself being aware, just for a moment. Images and ideas and thoughts, they will come and try and interfere and get your attention. But let them come and let them go. So you're just aware of yourself being aware. And then bring your awareness to your mind. Now, your mind is like a screen, a canvas. That canvas is blank. So just create one thought in your mind. I am a being of peace. Just create that one thought and let it roll across your mind, but very slowly. And then let that thought fade away. Let it dissolve into the background. And notice what remains. There's a feeling of peace, of calm, of quiet. So now the mind is silent, empty, and there's a stillness here at the heart of your being. Silent and still. Silent and still. Then bring your awareness back to the room around you and the here and now. But bring that stillness with you. Bring that calm with you. So as you listen through these ears, hear from that stillness. As you see through these eyes, see from that stillness. That's good. So thank you very much. And have a great weekend, what's left of it.
Thank you, Mike. Thanks a lot.
Bye.
We'll keep the screen for a few minutes because the notes are there in case anyone wants to download these notes. And we have a program tomorrow by Trish from 5 to 6 Kuwait time. I think we'll share. It's called 5 Steps to Meditation. And that's the series of the 4 a.m. Peace webinar. So welcome. Thank you again, Mike, and good night. Good night to everyone. Thank you.